Hello everyone, it's George from Ireland. Welcome back to my channel. I'm commenting on the recent federal elections in Germany. So Olaf Scholz, the Social Democrat who was Chancellor for about 3 years, is on his way out. And Friedrich Merz, who's the leader of the Christliche Demokratische Union, is going to be appointed Bundeskanzler. Yeah, they last had an election, I think it was 2021, that September, when the SPD won for the first time in years, almost 20 years. Yeah, one of the many notable takeaways is the combined vote share for the two major parties, what used to be the two major parties, the CDU and the Sozialistische Demokratische Partei Deutschlands, is between them only 46%. Because, I mean, until the 90s, the two of them would regularly get like a combined total of 80%. So fragmentation, minor parties no longer so minor. It's the same sort of thing that played out in the United Kingdom last July. Anyway, Olaf Scholz, he might remain leader of the Social Democrats, but he's not going to be chancellor. So Friedrich Merz at 69 is coming in. But perhaps the most striking thing is the breakthrough of the Alternative for Deutschland, and they deserve a new video on their own. Also, the only party led by a woman, so it's got 21% of the vote, so well ahead of the Social Democrats on 16%. Because since the establishment of the Federal Republic of Germany in 1945, the Social Democrats were always one of the two. It was a duopoly. Only the CDU or the SPD could form a government on their own. Usually had to be coalition with somebody else, like the Freie Demokratische Partei, or indeed Die Grünen. So Alice Weidel, who's leader of the AfD, she is elated. So it's a very good result for them. And they were only founded about 10 years ago, and it is a major gain on their last time. Have they peaked? I suspect they have. And if we go to the demographics, we see how different segments of society vote for different parties. Well, you might say, well, there's no surprise there then, as always the case, but more of a generational gap. There's significant regional differences. I mean, Germany's more divided than ever before. It's not bad to have regional differences. We don't have to have uniformity. And some people say, oh, division, that's a terrible thing. Because unless you have one party state, it's going to be divided to some extent. And that can be healthy. You wouldn't expect that every demographic would vote exactly the same way. People are 18 or people are 85. People in every region of the country. People of every socioeconomic status. But the differences are quite stark in Germany. The AfD shows that the major parties have failed to address public concerns on immigration, both legal and illegal, as well as crime. But the AfD obviously blows these things out of proportion. It appeals to fear, and that's a very puissant psychological button to press. Fear and disgust. So they're rather distasteful. That's it. And the CDU is an ardent Europhile party, no surprise there then. And he's said that he's been horrified by what Donald Trump has said regarding Ukraine. But Merz has also been very candid that Americans are largely indifferent to the fate of Europe. And yeah, it's a wake-up call. He's correct that European countries, including Germany, need to spend far more on defense, need to be willing to fight Russia if the United States is not going to back them up. I wouldn't think of someone with the Social Democrats. Obviously, they're a major party for even from the mid 19th century, in some states even before unification in 1871. So it goes on. Now, a coalition has to be formed because the CDU, I don't think they have quite enough seats in the Bundestag to govern on their own, because there are 630 seats in the Bundestag. Therefore, we need 316 for a majority. By the way, in Bavaria, the CDU was known as a Christliche Sozialunion. So Bavaria likes to do everything a little bit different. I remember when Edmund Stoiber was the Minister President of Bayern, because it's a very distinctive region. Is it the largest state in Bavaria? Methinks it is. Not sure it's the largest population. Quite prosperous with the Bayerische Motorwerk. So, like Scotland saying, we're distinctive, we like to do things our own way, blah, blah, blah. There's no separatist movement there of any significance that I know of. But one of the notable things, obviously, Scotland, that's as compared to England, which is far, far bigger. Germany has 16 states, and none of them is bigger than all the others put together. Whereas obviously England is bigger than Northern Ireland plus Wales plus Scotland combined. So the comparison is not direct. But the idea is they have a coalition with the SPD. So this is the worst result for the SPD. I mean, ever. You look in the early 20th century, you look in the 19th century, this is their worst. So why? Where are their voters gone? Something gone to AfD. Now, for many people, the AfD are just abominable. They're vile. People say that they're racist. They're neo-Nazi. And by the way, neo-Nazi parties are illegal in Germany. So worrying that the AfD are, we must keep this under control and not overstate what they're really like. Be fair to them. So results filtered through on Monday. There was obviously a three-party coalition under Olaf Scholz. There's a problem. You all have coalitions. You don't really boot governments out. You just reconfigure them. So you don't really punish a failure. Anyway, it was a very high turnout of the election, and again, that's probably a commendable thing. Although when turnout is low, that can also be salubrious in as much as people are content. It's in times of crisis that people who are usually apolitical suddenly become politicized because they're suffering from hyperinflation or high unemployment or high crime or a war or worry about whatever it is. Um, so people have got quite strong opinions about this. So if they manage to form a coalition of the two major parties, they'd have a 12-seat majority. They'd have 328. So they're trying to thrash that out. Could they get the Greens on board? But the Greens would demand so much done on the environment that CDU say would like slow down the economy. The CDU are further left. Die Linke, that's often the ex-communists. They got 9% of the vote, and they detest that CDU, whom they accuse of being the AfD in disguise. There's a so-called firewall around the AfD, where the mainstream parties will refuse to cooperate with them, thinking that eventually the party will implode, and it probably will. Right. So there'll probably be the Große Koalition. Anything else like that? Yeah. So the AfD got 151 seats. That's the second biggest party. So they don't have constituencies on a first past the post basis. And then any party gets over 5% of the vote can get sort of list seats by state, and the party supplies the list. Supposing there are 50 seats for a state, you probably put your leader, number one candidate, your deputy number two, but very important, like your finance spokesman or spokeswoman number three, maybe your education spokesman number four or whatever, and write down number 50, very, very junior party activist. So if you're number one on your regional list, you're almost certain to be elected. If you're number 50, there's like virtually no chance. Your party have to give it 100% of the vote. So Alice Weidels' party, the AfD, they've doubled their vote. People are furious. Price of rising. They've been high profile terrorist attacks and so on. So the AfD did very well in the former East Germany, in the whatever was called was Die Deutsche Demokratische Republik. They won everywhere outside Berlin and Dresden. So that was very notable. Yeah, and Berlin, Die Linke won there. So the people who have actually experienced far left policies are voting against the far left, except in Berlin, which I suppose was the more prosperous area of East Germany, and a lot of Westies were there. No, West Berlin was part of the Federal Republic. You might not know that Germany was divided into the East Germany, West Germany from 1945 really until 1990, and that the difference in voting behaviour is still there. So anyway, major parties think that the AfD, they want to cut out military aid to Ukraine totally, rebuild relations with Russia, and benefit from cheap oil and gas. So they're quite demagogic. So anyway, the Christian Democrats have relied slightly on older part voters, so the SPD. So the older people are often the centrists, whereas the youth vote is often going for the AfD or Die Linke. So there's also been a difference between how men and women voting. Women are a bit more attracted to the Greens or Die Linke or the SPD. with men that say they use the most more popular party, and the AfD appeals to men considering more than it does to women. So no surprise there then. Well, shall we be glad it was an exercise in democracy? Nobody says there's any cheating or intimidation or bogus voting. Thank you for watching my channel. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, donate to PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. Goodbye.